terms of accounting for clubs and societies and charities, the key areas of focus implementing the internal controls for the organisation. So basically what that means is some control around who has access to money and how that money is appropriated. One of the most basic forms of control are having a separate bank account for the organisation and then having 2 or more signatories on that account. That just means that not one person can access money, and it just provides a form of control over where money is going. So then accurately recording transactions as well. It's another key area, and setting budgets, the audit requirements and benefits, and then there's tax and GST rules as well. And of course, there's changes coming to the Incorporated Societies Act 2022. We'll cover off quite a bit on that as well for you. Okay. So why are good accounting practices, why they're important for your organisation? Let's get rid of that. The accuracy and transparency, they're vital to maintain trust in your organisation. It's critical to prevent mismanagement and errors and fraud as well. Establishing clear protocols. So it's all about having a process to follow and everyone knows that process. And there's legal requirements that we all have to comply with. And so, you can also plan for your cash flow forecasting. And then, ability to allocate funding effectively, and also the ability to secure funding. If a fund is looking at your organisation, they want to know that that you have systems and processes in place to manage the money they're going to pass on to you, and then it's going to be used for the purpose that what they have been told it's going to be used for. Okay. So the basics around internal controls. I'm just repeating the other slide really, but processes and policies and procedures really around, and that money cannot be misappropriated, and segregation of duties between workers. So not one worker can have approval and payment or receive money and bank that money. Okay. So there should be at least 2 signatories on a bank account. Okay. And the charity or the organisation, even a sports club, they should have its own dedicated bank account. Sharing bank accounts that belong to private people is a big no-no. Should not be done. Okay. Accounting systems, moving on to those. So you need a system for recording, and it can be as basic as an Excel spreadsheet as the lowest cost option, but the risk of errors is extremely high, and there's not a lot of faith that can be put into an Excel spreadsheet if you have somebody new looking at it for the first time. So the best system, there's 2 best systems in the market, are either Xero or MYOB. They're purpose built for this sort of thing, and off the back of them you can do your annual reporting as well for your annual compliance. But more than that, if you need to build budgets and forecasts, they have the ability to handle that for you as well. So setting a budget. So what is a budget? You mentioned the word budget to most people when they freeze, and it seems to be associated with cutting back and making and doing without. But really, a budget is just a plan. It just helps to align the financial decisions with the goals, and putting a roadmap in place, if you want to call it that, of how you're going to get to that point. Okay, so it's a process to build a budget, and the 4 key points we've put in here really help you understand how to build a budget. So, first of all, understanding how the income comes in, where does it come from, and any restrictions on how that income is spent. So, for example, if a grant is given, it's usually given for a specific purpose and must be used for that purpose. Often there are use or return conditions on grants. If it's not used for the purpose for which it's been given, it must be paid back. Okay, so, and also considering how your charity will spend money and prioritize those expenses as well. Okay, and budget for the essentials, leave excesses out for the nice to haves. When we build budgets, we ask two questions: what must you have, and what would be nice to have? And it doesn't mean you're not going to get the nice to haves, but we need to know what the essentials are first before we can move on to the nice to have things. Okay. So moving on to auditing. So when is it needed? So not all organizations required to have an audit. Some organizations have to, by law, have to have them. So under the Charities Act, if you have operating expenditure over 550,000, it's either an audit or a review engagement. So that's 550 in the previous 2 accounting periods. So over 550 is either an audit or a review engagement, and over 1.1, it must be an audit for the previous 2 accounting periods. So I think everybody knows what an audit is. Usually puts the fear of God into people when you mention the word audit. But a review engagement, it's like an audit, but it's just a lower level of assurance that's given. There's less work involved with a review engagement, and often they are a lower cost because of that. They give a lower level of assurance, whereas an audit will give a higher level of insurance. Okay. It depends on your constitution of your organization. We're mentioning the word charity a lot in here, but really it applies to any incorporated society or sports club or anything like that. If your constitution requires an audit, then you have to have one every year. Audits are getting more and more expensive because the cost of compliance for an auditor is going up and up every year. So there's a lot of organizations are finding they can't afford them anymore. Also, if you're looking for funding outside of your organization, if you're applying for grants or sponsorship, an audit does provide a high level of assurance that the accounts or financial statements that your funder is looking at are true and accurate. So there are many organizations that we work with that are legally not required to have an audit, but they do so for that very reason. And they have higher success rates with funding applications because of that. Okay. Governance. So moving on to governance. What is governance? It's often a term that's thrown around, but not many people really know what it means. And it's really, as the slide says here, a set of rules and controls and policies within an organization to direct appropriate behavior among the members. So in a not-for-profit organization, it's usually dictated by a trustee board or a committee, choosing what duties each member of the committee will take on and allow areas of significance in your organization. Many organizations struggle to get a good quality board. There are areas of finance always comes up with a governance, a board of governance, but it really depends on your organization as to what that's made up of for your organization, what it looks like. But finding volunteers to do these roles is not always easy. Okay, but if you're looking at putting a governance board together, really have a focus on what your organization is and what it does and what areas you feel that they would need. At the very basic need, you're going to need a chairperson, a secretary, and a treasurer. But if you are a sports club, for example, you might want to have somebody responsible for membership, if that's important to you, and growing membership. If you're a sports organization that's focusing on kids sport, you could even drill down further into that around ages of children and things like that. Okay. Health and safety is also a big area for every organization as well, regardless. It really comes down to the resources you've got and how many people you've got available to help out.